100-fold for every plant that sprouts up. I don't want just out of one seed. I just don't want one butter bean shell or hull. Amen. I expect the whole plant, and I expect to go out there and get one harvest off from it, and it to keep growing, and me to go out there and get another harvest. What you plant in the ground, you may end up reaping a whole lot more than you sowed in the first place. Hosea chapter 8, verse number 7, they have sown the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. Huh? Devil didn't tell you that, did he? What he told you is for you to go out and have a one-night shindig with your girlfriend and your boyfriend, or for you to reconnect one of your high school friends on Facebook and just have a nonchalant, what was seeming just to be a good time and meant to be fun and nonchalant and all those kinds of things. What he never told you is that you will never get over the consequences of those actions. Pastor, you say you play around with a snake's tail long enough, you'll get bit. You play around with fire long enough, you'll get burned. You mess around with sin long enough, and you'll never get over the consequences. Never. Before you embark into sin's territory, what you better keep in mind is that the consequences of sin are rarely advertised beforehand. Rarely advertised beforehand. Abraham never thought he'd have to leave his nephew behind in getting rich down in Egypt, telling a half-truth, which happens to equal a whole lie. He never thought he'd have to leave his nephew behind. He'd probably made some kind of commitment that he was going to take him and take care of him. There's probably in parts and nights that Abraham pillowed his head down at night knowing what Lot was getting involved in over in Sodom and Gomorrah, and probably had a little guilt and remorse that maybe he had done some things that kind of aided that along a little bit. Never thought it'd have to happen. Moses probably never thought just by striking a rock and claiming almost to be on the same level as God. Therefore, he never thought that he'd be kept back from entering the promised land. He was the deliverer of Israel. Never would have thought it in a million years. Jonah probably never thought he'd be swallowed up by a whale just by not going to a preaching service. Judas never thought he'd end up killing himself. Ananias and Sapphira probably never thought they'd die at church on the same day. Alexander the coppersmith never thought he'd get his name called out by the preacher. Sin never will advertise for you the consequences that lay behind it. It'll come up and bite you. And it's ready to bite you. Sin lies at the door. We've preached this message and made a long series out of it for one reason, because we all face this every single day of our lives. And we are all in a body of flesh, and we are all prone to mess up. We are all prone to make a mess out of our lives. The best thing that you could possibly do in your life, the best thing you could possibly do, is live in pursuit of God and keep short records of unconfessed sin. Come clean before God, confess and forsake your sin. And God says you'll have mercy. I'll give it to you, God says. But you're going to have to come clean, and when you come clean, you're going to have to leave it there. God ain't in this business of making a deal with Him. He's not interested in you coming down to an altar tonight and just making a few words and making plans to get back up and go back out and involve yourself in the same life you was living before you come in here. God don't operate like that. For if we sin willfully, Hebrews 10:26, after we've received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth therefore no sacrifice for sins. God ain't in the business of running anything like that. But if you'd be tired of your sin tonight and you'd come clean with God, you could have mercy tonight. Let's stand for prayer.